on investing, and just wanted to say welcome to everybody. My name is Laurie Rogers, and I'll be your host for this evening. Just a little bit about my background. I started my career in the healthcare industry. I was in the information technology field for a major healthcare organization here in Northern California. Spent 15 years there, and then started investing on my own, learning everything that I could about pretty much every kind of investment there was out there, and just really became obsessed with learning. And now at this stage in my life, my husband Paul and we're just really passionate about helping other people learn about financial literacy. We want to give back. We want to help other people learn the good, the bad. We've made mistakes along the way, and we want to share those as well as the good things that have gone on with us as well. So for that tonight, I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that I've learned over the past few years, and one of them is about IRAs and how to use an IRA to really build your future. And a lot of people have certainly heard of IRAs. They know of them, what the concept of them are, but I think what a lot of people might not know is just how they might be able to use an IRA to do things other than just kind of traditional investing. And there's a lot of people, attorneys, accountants, even financial planners, that while they're not necessarily advising people not to do a self-directed IRA, but they just might not know. Maybe they've come up through the ranks in a particular company or in organization, and that's just not the culture for that company to promote that. And even within the custodian of your current IRA, they may say that it's self-directed, but it's self-directed to the point that you can pick from a couple of different options. And in my definition, that's really not self-directed. That's when you can only go within certain guidelines that custodian happens to place on you. So one of the things that I wanted to share with people is there are all of these types of investments that are perfectly you're able to use your IRA money with, and a lot of these are things that people may not have considered: trust deeds, tax liens, private placements, lease options, oil and gas, limited liability companies where you're actually getting stock in a company, or a promissory note, things like that. And they're not the typical type of real estate or stock or mutual funds that people tend to think about using their IRAs. And some people, just because they have never heard of that before, might think that that is not an allowed thing that they can do just because their financial planner has never told them about that. When in reality, this has been in existence since 1974, so over 40 years. When the IRA code was first written, nothing has changed. So the things that I shared that you could invest in, promissory notes or companies or tax liens, this isn't anything new. These have always been around since the tax code was written. I mean, most people just don't realize that. And the IRS, this is kind of one of the things that I think the IRS actually kind of got right, is they don't dictate what you can do. They simply tell you what you cannot do, which is a much easier way to go about it, where they tend to be kind of the opposite, do this, do this, do this, do this. In this case, however, they've said most things are available to you. Here's just the things that we say no to. And some of those things are collectibles, artwork, antiques, cars, things like that. So you can't use your IRA to go out and buy that beat-up old Mustang, restore it into a beautiful muscle car, and then sell it. The IRS would say no to that. They also say no to certain coins. That's not to be confused with gold or silver, because you certainly can use your IRA money to invest in gold and silver. These would be specific types of coins, more like antique type coins and those types of things. And you also can invest in life insurance policies. They say no to that. So when we go back and we start to look at, okay, well, there are a wide variety of things that we can invest our money in. So one of the things that my husband Paul and I, we both actually are invested in and involved with is Cambridge Adult Day Centers. And that's what I wanted to spend a little bit of time speaking with you about tonight as well, to share with you a way that we can use our IRA money, and then a business that you may not have ever thought about investing either with your IRA or even just your own personal funds as well. While adult day centers is not a new concept, it's not something that has just started recently. It's been around for years and years and years, but we'll see why it's becoming more and more important. And this really is just it's an emerging sector of a business that is going to be around for a very, very long time and really provides a lot of service to our community. So Cambridge Adult Day Centers, we provide an affordable care alternative, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. But it really is much like what you would think about when you think about child daycare. Instead of being a child, it's an adult who needs to go to a facility to have care, to be in a fun environment, to continue to learn, thrive, have a good healthy meal, get some companionship, and some assistance with some of the things that they wouldn't be able to function on in their days. And it also provides a choice for families who are faced with where do they provide this care for their family and their loved ones. And when we look at who's a participant for an adult daycare center, you know, I think our first thought, and when I first started looking at this, my mind went immediately to people in my family, my parents, my aunts and uncles, people, you know, if you have grandparents, people who are at that age that you're thinking they might start to need some sort of care. That it is that, but it also encompasses so much more. These can be, you know, military veterans who are coming back with either, you know, mental or physical disabilities and problems with that they faced over in combat, things like that. These can be adult children that, you know, have a disease or a mental illness or a physical disability that prevents them from providing care for themselves. And it really is anyone from 18 to 100 plus that simply needs some additional care during the day that needs to be supervised and monitored. So let's look at a few statistics. And this was really interesting as I was putting together these slides. And the CDC did a study 2 years ago, actually in 2013, and they were doing some population data projecting to the year 2050. And I'm thinking, okay, 2050, that's 35 years from now. And what they're saying is that the number of people who will be 65 or older is going to double by the year 2015 compared to what it is now. And the number of people who are 85 or older is going to triple. People are becoming more healthy, our life expectancy is getting longer, so that number is going to triple compared to what it is today. Well, then I thought, okay, that's 35 years, and I'm 50. I just turned 50 last year, so that means I now wind up on this slide as a statistic on the 85 and over population data. And then, so that first of all, that was kind of like, oh my gosh, that really kind of hit home to me. But then I looked at it, if you're 30 years old, you've got a niece, you've got a brother, you've got children who are in their 30s. They're now in this statistic as well. And think of how many people that really encompasses. So now we've got where we're going to be in with the people who are going to be 65 to 85 or older. Out of that population, 2/3 of all of those people are going to need some sort of care in their lives in the year 2050. And when you take that out to how many actual number of people is that, it's almost 71 million people who are going to need some sort of care on a daily basis. And those numbers to me are just very, very staggering. And so then when we start to look at, all right, well, let's look at the current daycare centers that exist nationwide right now. Right now across the country we have about 4,800 adult daycare centers nationwide. According to the CDC, we should have 8,500. So we're short right now today by over 3,700 centers. Now that doesn't take into account the numbers of where we're going to be in 2050. So if we're already not keeping up with the demand that our population is needing for this type of care, we're already behind the curve, and we need to get more centers online, and it's just going to continue to grow. We're going to need more and more and more of them as time goes on. The other statistic that's on here is the percent underserved, and this is dealing with the number of counties in the United States. And right now today, out of all of the counties in the United States, over 56% of them are underserved. And that means that whatever number of adult day centers they have in their area, they're not meeting the needs and the demands that their population already has. So once again, it really just goes to show that, number one, we haven't kept up. We have not brought enough centers online, and we will have literally a never-ending supply of people that will need this type of care over the next 10, 20, 30 years and beyond. And these numbers are just dealing with the senior population. None of this is encompassing any of the young people that have, physical disabilities, again, veterans coming back who have post-traumatic stress syndrome, those types of things that they need that extra care. So when you add those numbers on top of this, I hope you can really start to see just how big of a shortage there really is in our country for this type of care. So, as I started looking and doing some research on adult day centers and the industry as a whole, one of the things, that just kept going through my mind is, well, where would my mom go? If my mom needed care right now today, where would she go? I live in California. She lives in Florida. Even if I brought her out here, my husband Paul and I, we still, while we don't necessarily have a real job where we go to an office building at 9 o'clock every day, we still have businesses to run. We still make money. We still have work that needs to be done, that it would make it difficult for us to provide 24-hour-a-day care and continue to run our business the way that we do to make the money that we need to support our family. So what options would we have? Mom could stay alone, which, obviously if there's some issues with her getting older and things like that, that's not a good option. We could bring in an in-home health care. That could, be a neighbor, a friend, or a family member, something like that. But then I would look like, well, how long could that option sustain itself? Would that be a true long-term solution that we could do? There's assisted living, which, would be more of a institutional type of, nursing home or something like that. And, I think everyone who has talked to people in that type of situation is they just want to stay in their home or in what's comfortable with them as long as possible. They don't want to go to that full-time nursing home, assisted living center. They just want to be able to care for themselves the way that they're accustomed to as long as possible. And so those might also not be the best options you write off at the start. So, and then again, there's another statistic just about the number of people who will be turning 65 over the next 18 years, and that's 8,000 a day, every day, every day, every day. 8,000 more people turning 65. So again, we're never going to run out of people who need this type of care. And so when we look at adult day centers, it's amazing. They parallel child daycares almost to a T. If you look at child daycare, in the 20s, 30s, 40s, even into the 50s, for the most part, there was one income earner in the family, and that person would go to their job, they would earn their money, the other person would stay at home, care for the home, care for the children, and it went that way for a long time. And in the 50s, that started to change. Now, all of a sudden, there were two income earners. Well, what are we going to do with the children became the question. And much like the same questions that you would have with an elderly person today is, what are we going to do with the child? And obviously, leaving them alone is not an option. So a lot of the solutions were the neighborhood lady who maybe cared for her own children and 4, 5, 6 of the neighborhood kids. She just ran it out of her house just for the neighborhood. Then it kind of grew into, churches kind of took on that role just, again, I think because of need, people coming to them saying, we need a solution for this. Do you have any suggestions? Where can we turn? So I think church kind of stepped in and did some of that as well. And it really wasn't until the 70s when KinderCare came on the scene and said, you know what, we're going to run child daycare like a true business. We're going to bring in professionals who are educated in dealing with children in their development and helping them grow and learn. We're going to provide a bright, fun, happy place for them to be. We're going to stimulate their learning. We're going to provide good, nourishing meals for them during the day. And most importantly, we're going to allow the families of these children to know that their loved ones are being well taken care of during the day. And so that the family can go to their job and not have to worry about the children who are there. This is the same thinking that Cambridge Adult Daycare Centers goes. And this is what we want to do as well. We want to be the KinderCare for adult daycare because the progression has been exactly the same, where now we've got parents or grandparents who were responsible for their care, and we have to provide some place for them to go. So if we have an adult daycare center that provides them with socialization, good meals, some companionship, provides their medicine, making sure they take it on a timely basis, keeps them safe, all of those things. Number one, it's a benefit to the person who's attending the center, but it's also a huge benefit to the family to know that their loved one is now being cared for in a center that is good for them, that doesn't mean that they have to go into an assisted living, that they can still, in the evenings, enjoy the rest of the family and be a part of that, but still have a good, safe place to go during the day. So basically, we're providing that bridge to a full assisted living, and the participants enjoy the environment as much as the family members enjoy knowing that their loved ones are really taken care of. And so if we look at the business opportunity, this daycare, it's expanding. Right now we have our presence is in the Midwest. We're looking at expanding over the next 5 to 7 years. Again, in mostly the Midwest. It seems that on both coasts, they're more progressive, and in the Midwest they tend to lag a little bit behind. So our focus is going to be on the Midwest, cities like Memphis, Indianapolis, Fort Wayne, Dayton, places like that. And they're the largest in the underserved areas as well. Again, if you look at your portfolio, this could be a very good way to diversify that. It means that if your portfolio right now is very heavy in stocks or real estate, things like that, this could be another option to help balance that out again. And of course, your IRA money works really well there as well. So we look at a basic business model. Our focus is to take advantage, to utilize the Medicaid reimbursement program that each state has. Each state is a little bit different. In Missouri, they pay $73 a day, Illinois $90, Ohio $106. And so when we look at that money coming in, that's where the revenue is generated. There's some private pay, but we focus primarily on Medicaid reimbursement for our models. We also utilize the USDA food program, and that can add as much as 8% of the annual revenue for a center into their bottom line. The average center is licensed for 50 people, and it can break even at only 12 participants, and which is 24% occupancy. So if we look back at the population and all the potential people who could take advantage of this type of center, it's really quite easy to see that we could be profitable very, very quickly. As soon as we open the doors, when we're in such an underserved environment, that it becomes profitable very, very quickly. And the sample average Cambridge Adult Day Center is, again, it's licensed for 50, and it costs about $200,000 to open up a center. And those would include things like the tenant improvements, the staffing, leasing of vehicles, the licensure, all of those kinds of things. If we assume and run our numbers on a 60% occupancy, which I all think that we can understand that that's a really realistic number to get to very quickly, each center will net to $20,000 a month. So those are really, really good numbers. If we're looking at the return on this investment, if we took an example of $100,000 invested into Cambridge Adult Day Centers, we pay a 6% interest on the capital that you invest, and we return your principal in 6 years. Now this is where I get really, really excited about this investment, is not only the interest on the money, that's great and I love that, but this is the part that I really, really like, is the 3% distribution of the business profit per $100,000 invested. So you own a 3% equity ownership in this business. So at the end of 6 years, you've got your money back. You've earned 6% interest on it. You've earned 3% as the business profit, and you will continue to earn that business profit for the remainder of the life of that center, as long as it's open, as long as it's profitable. And I think we've shown that it's pretty darn easy to keep those two things going. So let's look at some real numbers with this. If you invested $100,000, your interest payment the first year is going to be $6,000. We don't return any principal. That is 5 equal payments on years 2 through 6. But again, where it really gets interesting is at year 7, because in year 7, you've gotten all of your money back. It's back in your pocket. You've reinvested it into something else. You can go make your return on whatever else you want to invest on. But from that point forward, you're making a residual income off from that investment that you made one time over these 6 years, and that can be, $5,000 on that type of a return after your principal's return, as long as the center is open. And that's what I really, really like about this business model. So let's just talk a little bit about Cambridge Management. We just simply do it better than the competition. A lot of the competition out there right now are small mom and pop type establishments that are really not running this as a true business. They're just filling a need for other people in the community. We operate under the philosophy of the 4 C's: compassion, compliance, community development, and cost control. Obviously, in this business, compassion, this is a very service-oriented business, and the good that you can see that happens in this community, the people in the community that are served, it truly is amazing. And compliance and community development, those 2 things, very, very important as well as keeping the cost under control. We've put together a great team of people. Christine Zerjoff is our CEO. She actually serves on the Missouri State Board for Adult Day Care Centers, so she helps guide legislation and rules and regulations that affect the adult day care centers as businesses as a whole. So we've got great leadership on just the business and finance side of things as well. This is a picture of some of the centers that we currently have open. They are in the greater St. Louis area. So you can see they're nice, clean, neat centers that people would enjoy going to on a daily basis. This is a map of St. Louis where our centers are currently located. The gold stars are ones that will be brought online in the next 30 days. We have another 6 that are slated to come on shortly thereafter, and our goal is to be at 20 to 25 centers by the end of the year. So next steps, if this information has piqued your interest, maybe on the IRA side of like, I didn't realize that I could invest in something like this with my IRA, or it just makes sense for you with other funds that you might have available or other people that you may know that this would really fit for them. The next step really is to just reach out to me and let's have further conversation. Again, my name is Laurie Rogers. My phone number is 916-412-4291. 916-412-4291. I am a great texter, so if you prefer to text, feel free to reach out to me like that, and we can get in touch that way. My email address is lrogersre@gmail.com, lrogersre@gmail.com. I hope you enjoyed this information. I know it was a lot to cover. I hope that you found it educational. Some of the statistics and things like that, just a lot of people just are not aware of that, and I would absolutely love to have further conversation with you about this or any of the goals that you might have in your investing future. Thanks so much for joining me this evening, and I look forward to talking with you soon.